This is what's happening in Texas with their gerrymandering case and the way the way the Democrats have responded.
So aboard that plane you're looking at right there, dozens of Democrats from the state legislature flying out of Texas to block the Republican-led effort backed by President Trump to redraw the Texas congressional map. This is a fight that could have nationwide consequences when it comes to who controls the U.S. House of Representatives. The plan could potentially eliminate 5 Democratic seats in the U.S. House ahead of the 2026 midterms. Many of those Texas Democrats have traveled to Illinois, denying the state House the minimum number of members needed to advance the redistricting plan. Others have gone to New York, some to Massachusetts. This is what Texas Democrats said after arriving in Chicago late last night.
The tool they're using is a racist, gerrymandered map. A map that seeks to use racial lines to divide hard-working communities who have spent decades building up their power and strengthening their voices. And Governor Abbott is doing this in submission to Donald Trump.
If you can't win with your policies, you have to try and win by changing the entire system over. They're open about it. They've talked about how they would eliminate 5 Democratic seats with this gerrymandering, which is nothing new. They're just going to extreme versions. Everything that this guy does is the extreme version of that. We've seen both parties do gerrymandering. In this case, they're looking to completely eliminate the folks that they can't beat. As a matter of fact, the folks who continue to come forward that they still wouldn't be able to beat next. That's how this operation works. So Democrats have responded, as you guys saw. They took off, went to Illinois and a few other states to avoid even having this whole thing happen. James Tallarico, who's is a state representative there, he talked about it in more detail. He was talking about education before. I've always liked what James Tallarico has said. He does it well. Here he is talking about it.
This is State Representative James Tallarico from Texas. If you're seeing this video, my Democratic colleagues and I have just left our beloved state to break quorum and stop Trump's redistricting power grab. Trump told our Republican colleagues to redraw the political maps here in Texas in the middle of the decade to get him 5 more seats and protect his majority in Congress. They're turning our districts into crazy shapes to guarantee the outcome they want in the 2026 elections. If this power grab succeeds, they will hang on to power without any accountability from the voters. But Texas Democrats are fighting back. We're leaving the state, breaking quorum, and preventing Republicans from silencing our voices and rigging the next election. We are not fighting for the Democratic Party. We are fighting for the democratic process, and the stakes could not be higher. We have to take a stand.
I've been begging for Democrats to do something different. And as we've gotten to this point, some here, as you saw, the Texas Democrats are doing something about it, no matter how angry and crazy these guys talk. One more point on the projection. That's why he talked about rigging elections so many times, so that when he implements these types of policies and tells the governor of a state to do what he tells them to do in order to rig that election in his favor, we're not saying it. He said it. As he does that, if anybody says, like Tallarico accurately just said, when you're rigging an election, it shows that you suck at this. So that then maybe the brainless followers can go, why are Democrats talking about rigging elections? Maybe because we see it in front of our faces how it works. Donald Trump's claim of rigged elections still have zero evidence behind it. He just says it and expects you to believe it. It's a good thing that there's some folks within the state, regular folks who vote, who talk about how much of a rigged game this is and the way that this guy likes to cheat.
He was caught cheating on video on the golf course. He cheated on his taxes. He cheated on his business loans. He cheated on his wives. He cheated on the business contractors that he stiffed through 40 years of business. And he tried to cheat in the 2020 election. Now he's trying to cheat and win this 2026 midterm election because he knows he can't win. He has ordered Governor Greg Abbott to obey his command and cheat on the Texas redistricting scam to gerrymander 5 new, grossly and illegally drawn House districts. We are here because Texas is the first state under assault. If Texas House Republicans bow down to Trump like Abbott did, the other red states will follow. And if they do that, then America will be under assault.
Sadly, we already are. And he makes a great point about this being the testing ground, similar to where the testing ground for their mass deportation policy was to run through Los Angeles and through California itself to destroy people's lives and hope that they can implement this everywhere else. And the damage that they've already done is irreversible. Greg Casar, who's also another Democrat who is from Texas, talks more deeply about this. And this is one of the aspects that connects to the way that this party, this Republican Party, has always been. It's just Donald Trump took it to the next level. Casar talks about the violations as they're doing this redistricting, gerrymandering process, how it violates the Voting Rights Act from the Civil Rights era that Republicans said we don't need anymore.
People need to pay attention to what's happening in Texas right now because Donald Trump wants to spread this kind of ploy across America. Trump knows he can't win the upcoming midterm elections, so he's trying to rig them. And the way he's trying to do it is to dismantle the Voting Rights Act of 1965 as we know it. Molly, as you just stated, he is trying, for example, to dismantle Hispanic and African-American opportunity districts. I represent a district overwhelmingly of Latinos here in the Austin area. And if Donald Trump is able to suppress the votes of Latinos here in Austin, soon enough he wants to do that across America. And he could do that and ultimately try to get more complicit and corrupt Trump Republicans to continue to defend his agenda even as it becomes less and less popular.
That's how it works. Again, it's the testing ground, but specifically in eliminating the power of people who voted people like Greg Casar in. So in order to ignore voters and a vast majority of us across the country, you just eliminate their voice. And I remember, again, as I talked about, Charlemagne was talking about how the normal traditional Republican Party is going to try and come back and they can take back over because of the whole thing with Epstein cover-ups. Maybe not, because they're the ones who implemented the path to get to this point. Remember, they were dismantling things in the Voting Rights Act. Remember, they pressed the Supreme Court to do these things. Their whole objective was to bring us back. Donald Trump is the pinnacle of that whole thing. They're in agreement with them. There's a reasons why they're not fighting back, because this is where they were coming to. This is the point. He's just wild and says it openly. They're a little bit more measured about how they talk about it. Donald Trump just says, I hate you black folks and I hate you Latinos. You guys are rapists, criminals, and drug dealers, and I want you out of my effing country because it's a white country. That's how he talks. And the rest of the Republican Party, who's the traditional ones, didn't want to say it so explicitly. But as they dismantled the avenues of our Voting Rights Act that was necessary because that's how our country always has been, this is what making America great again means, taking us back. Really fast, I'd love to go to Jasmine Crockett, who they said that part of this whole gerrymandering is supposed to be literally gerrymandered out of her own district. She no longer lives in her district. Try and make sense of that. She goes on about Ken Paxton, though, and who he is as this cabal of fascists tries to put this plan together.
Ken Paxton is MAGA through and through. We're talking about someone who had been under felony indictment in the state of Texas for almost a decade. In fact, he was indicted before the felon in the White House was indicted. We're talking about someone who had been under federal investigation. We're talking about someone who was impeached by his own party and then was not convicted as his wife sat in the jury on the Senate side. And now she has said, I want to divorce you. And she's stating that it's biblical reasons. And I guess it had nothing to do with that fake Uber account that he had when he was going to see his mistress. That was a part of his impeachment trial. Let me tell you, there is drama on top of drama, and there definitely are no family values whatsoever to be found. And now we know that this same attorney general has decided that he wants to threaten these lawmakers because they are the real criminals in the state of Texas, not the guy who should be behind bars, but the lawmakers who have decided that in a majority minority state, they should have districts that are reflective of the people so that they can actually be in alignment with our Constitution, because that's exactly what the 15th Amendment was about.
They want to eliminate the representative government that we've got. They want to eliminate it. If you're black and you're brown, or if you're a white person, if you're an Asian person who's voted in people to represent you, they don't want those people representing you anymore. And Ken Paxton, as she clearly pointed out, none of that is made up. You can literally look up all the facts that she detailed about Ken Paxton, but they're the party of family values as they murder children. and cover up sex traffickers of children. Last little bit of it. I brought up Ken Paxton for a particular reason because he's the one who told Greg Abbott his response, which says by 3 p.m. today that if these Texas Democrats don't come back, he's going to eliminate them. He's going to cut out their seats and replace them with whoever he wants. That doesn't sound very fascist at all, does it? But still, this is what Ken Paxton thinks he can do. He's the one who gave Greg Abbott, the governor of the state, the idea that he could do that.
Governor Abbott says if those Democrats are not back by 3 p.m. Central Time today, he will vacate their offices. But the authority he's claiming to do that comes from a non-binding legal opinion issued by the state attorney general, Ken Paxton, after the last time Democrats did something like this in 2021. Paxton, who was running for Senate, has called for the Democrats who have left to be arrested. A lot of politics at play here.
Nothing but politics at play here. The bad guys are trying to continue their takeover.